All right, well, we're here at the Yak Gear Workbench, and we're talking about rigs and techniques, bass fishing with one of the best there ever was, Shaw Grigsby, member of the Bass Hall of Fame. He's going to tell us a little bit about the transition from fall to summer and beyond.
Right. You know, so summertime's right now, and you could hear Matt talk about it. Matt talked about the water temperatures cooling down, and as it cools down, these fish are going to move from those deep water spots, where you'll be throwing a crankbait like the 6XD, you're throwing it out there deep, and the big worms, you get out there on those brush piles. Well, they'll be moving from that back in the creeks and coves and the pockets because the shad are going to gang up there.
Right.
So then you want to use shad baits, lipless crankbaits, the topwater. My goodness, right now topwater's happening.
Right.
But it'll change from right now all the way to where it gets really good when they get on those shad. You'll see them schooling, busting shad, backs of pockets.
Like what kind of topwater are you talking about?
I love the walk the dog. Love the walk the dog. But you can use the ploppers, the poppers, all of them are really good. But walk the dogs are fun,
Right.
And when you get to the lipless baits, so as they move back in those pockets and they're on those shad, it doesn't seem like the big ones, the big lipless baits.
Even the little tiny ones, huh?
Exactly. You want the little quarter ounce, the little, half ounce is big, quarter ounce is perfect. So quarter ounce, and you will start mashing them, so it's just fun.
Well, that's what most of those little shads are right now, aren't they? They haven't got time to get big.
Exactly. So. And don't forget bladed jigs all the time, white spinner baits, anything that looks like a shad, your swim baits. I see you pulled out some swim baits here.
Right.
All those things, swim jigs, use the white ones.
Right. Is there ever a time when you go darker with them, or is it just?
There is, because, in between that, they eat everything from bluegill and crappie and stuff like that. So you can definitely use a darker one. It seems like if you have a real bright day, I don't mind moving down to a darker color. I don't like that real bright shine. If you have cleaner water. Now, if you have stained and dirty water, and there's a lot of places in Texas where you have so much vegetation that it cleans the water. You got all this hydrilla and it filters the water. So in those cases, I don't mind using a bluegill or a green pumpkin type color, and you can really catch them.
Right. Now, when you were talking about using that crankbait over there,
right?
And is that only during the summertime when those shad are up there, or? No,
this is deep. I mean, you got the 6XD, 8XD, 10XD. They get down real deep, and those are the deepest diving crankbaits that are made. So you can go down 25 foot on a cast of a crankbait. So that's pretty cool. And so you're ticking the tops of those brush piles and getting those big ones to come out of that brush and eat it. And it seems like a crankbait works plus the big worms. You use those big worms, and it's really good. You can Texas rig them, Carolina rig them. You get them over that brush and kind of work them slowly through the brush. And then when they get it, you hammer them and hang on, because you never know what you're going to get. Texas is a land of bigs.
Exactly. I see we brought a frog out because you said you wanted to bring a frog up. And you use these a lot too, huh?
Absolutely, and so that's a great topwater you can use. I love the black or the white. So the white is representing shad, again, like a crippled shad on top, and you're just popping it, twitching it. You can work them. They kind of work like a topwater.
Like a topwater.
And so, but the cool thing about that, you put that on 65-pound braid. You go back in the brush. It's like a 4-wheel drive. You're just like, you hook them and crank them through the brush and through the slop and through everything. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
That's my favorite thing to do is to fish on the top. But for me, it's a lot different because I live in Florida, but when I go out there, everything seems to be so deep, and they're doing all that live scope stuff now. Yeah, do you ever do some of that when you're out there?
Absolutely. So those forward-facing sonar is probably the single greatest thing to happen to fishing, in the sense of showing you, hey, there's a fish right there.
Right.
And then you can make that cast. Now, it's changed a lot of the baits we use. For the forward-facing sonar, we use swim baits. We use little minnows on jigs. So it's looking like the shad, because they're offshore most of the time. They're feeding on those shad. You'll see a fish just laying out there, and you can fire up on him, watch it come down. And one thing that I've learned is to use a lightest bait you can get by with. Okay. It seems like if it's falling too fast, they just kind of track, and then sometimes you catch them and sometimes you don't. If you can get it in front of them let it lay out there, and then just kind of shake it a little bit. They just come up and suck that thing down. It's so fun to watch it all on the screen and watch it go down in real time.
Well, it can either be fun or the most maddening thing that I've ever. I spent 5 hours out there casting one day, just trying and trying and trying. And I was telling you before, the guide said, "Oh, that's perfect, that's perfect, that's perfect." And you see it's like it's bouncing off his head, but then he didn't eat it. So you know, it can be the best of times or the worst of times,
absolutely,
in my opinion. Now, talk a little bit more about these swim jigs real quick.
So jigs and swim jigs, you know, jigs like the football jig, tremendous. I mean, this thing is tremendous for offshore, in the rocks. A little tough in brush piles, but it's still okay. You know, you can still bounce it into the brush and get it up and over it. So that's good while they're offshore. As it cools down, the swim jigs are going to be the deal.
And you're always going to probably have some little paddle tail on there of some
I put
sort.
everything from a creature bait to a twin tail to a boot tail like that, all these different things on the back of my swim jig. And then you put it generally on about, well, you can put it on braid if you like, especially in Texas. Braid's pretty good because you've got big ones.
Right.
And you're going to throw it out there and just swim it back nice and steady. Same thing I do at this same time. You can take the big worms and that they have, you know, we have like a mag cutter and whatever this one exact. I apologize. I don't know this one, but it's the same basic principle. Is that it's got this little tail that's kicks, and you put that probably an 1/8 ounce or 3/16 ounce bullet weight, and you start to swim that, right? And you just reel it, and they just boom, and they hit it, and then you just got to jack them up. And that's the same thing with a swim jig. You think a swim jig's any different? The only difference with a swim jig is you're going to swim it through the cover. It comes through most of it, but if you find a tree or a piece of brush or something, you can still pitch that thing in there and catch them. So you can vary that and get it as deep as you need.
Well, that was tremendous. Thank you very much, Shaw. It was great to have you here.
Bree, now you know why he's in the Hall of Fame.
I mean, I'm in awe of Shaw. I just can't.
In awe of Shaw.